Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to playoff number 2. This is one session that we're all looking forward to. It's Artificial Intelligence Advantage India. AI is reshaping industries globally. Today, we explore its impact on India and Germany. We will be raising crucial questions about job displacement, economic implications, and sustainability in the global context. Let me call on stage Stephan Baier, partner and global industry sector lead, Supplier MHP. Thank you so much, sir. Anand Ramamoorthy, MD Micron India. So we'd like to call you on stage. Dr. Niehues, Head AI for Language Tech, Institute of Anthropomatic. Harshul Asnani, President, Europe Tech Mahindra. Mr. Debashish Bishoy, CEO, Bosch SDS. And the match referee for this one, my colleague, R. Sridharan.
Thank you, Meha and Padmaja. I see that we have a lovely panel this morning. It's a 360-degree on AI because we have someone who sells technology, we have someone who researches AI, we have someone who makes chips, then we have someone who's actually using AI for consumers. So I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. So tell us, how are companies or corporates looking at AI? How much of deployment do you actually see in companies as far as AI tools are concerned?
No, firstly, Shri and Barun, thanks for hosting us all here. It's been an incredible event the last 2 days. Well, when it comes to AI, in my view, it's no longer a question of if. It's a question of when. It's a question of how soon. It's a question of how big. AI, and more specifically Gen AI, is probably the most powerful thing that has happened after the internet. And they say that the impact of AI is likely to be as profound as the impact of internet. They say that software eats the world, but now we are saying AI is going to eat software. I think most important for companies to look at is what is that use case that you want to build?
Exactly.
What is the business use case? What is the impact that you want to solve for? Once you have that, then you bring the process, the people, the technology behind it to make it happen and drive the maximum impact and the impact on your balance sheet and on your P&L. While I feel that many companies are also at the same time more looking at technology than a use case. And they come in from a different vantage point that doesn't deliver the necessary impact, right? Because having overload of technology without the right use case and the right business work doesn't work out. So it's a wide spectrum. There are certain companies which are way ahead. There are certain companies that are still struggling.
Right. So Harshul makes a very important point, Debashish, in terms of the ROI on AI. I think that's where most of the companies are really struggling because it costs a whole lot to train these models and then develop solutions that are actually going to generate any kind of return for the company. So from your experience as a vendor, do you have any examples in mind that you can share with our delegates here? Someone who's used AI and put it to really good use with good ROI on that investment?
So Sri, thank you very much for the question. I think it's a logical progression from what you asked Harshul, and Harshul set the stage very nicely. In many ways, your question is actually self-explanatory, right? So if you look at the hype cycle of previous technologies that we have seen, which have become pivotal in industry and therefore business, you'll realize that there comes a point in time when people start asking questions about the efficiency of the technology, one, and the impact of that technology in our day-to-day life, right? So I think we are reaching that point in time. It is not a question of if anymore. It's more a question of when, how, and where. Most importantly, where. And that's where the use case angle becomes extremely relevant. From our standpoint in Bosch, we are at a point where we are deploying AI inside the company. More specifically, we have also realized that we have to innovate with our customers, right? So this is not something where you will have the luxury of time on your side, right? So you have to accelerate innovation at a very, very fast pace. Therefore, we are working with our customers to identify the right use cases and the domains where we think ROI will be very high, right? So on the Gen AI domain, right, we are all used to a form factor of where you type something or input an image to any of the Gen AI platforms, and we are used to seeing a return, right? We get a return from the tool, and then.
So before I go to Anand and Stefan, Ian, there's a question for you. I'm not sure if you already read this book by the Princeton professors that were referring to AI snake oil, where they actually give you a lot of examples where these AI models have actually built on faulty data. And we know that an AI engine is going to be only as good as the data we put into it, right? So from your perspective, you're a researcher. How do we fix these issues? I'm sure there's work happening in that. If you look at what's happening at DeepMind, Google DeepMind, the work they're doing in terms of weather prediction, even in terms of protein folds and everything, it's remarkable. So do you see this as the initial teething troubles of AI? Technologically, is it going to get better in terms of the data that's going in and the output that comes out eventually?
I think we already see that a bit. So, I mean, I think with ChatGPT, the big advantage was not developing a complete new technology or so. It was really like scaling things up. And then even for researchers, it was really surprising, like what we get just by scaling things up. We are reaching, I agree that, like some amount where there's not that much new data coming in. It's also like getting more challenging because data which is essentially, but is more and more generated by Gen AI. So this gets a challenge that you're no longer sure on what you're really learning on. On the other hand, we're seeing that with this status now, we're also getting more efficient on like how to use the data. We're seeing smaller models having similar performance. And I think this is something where we definitely have to look into how to improve ML. If we compare it to a human, they have seen so much more data than any human ever will have the chance to.
Right.
But in a lot of things, they're still not on par. So how to make these models learn more efficient from what is out there is definitely currently a very hard research topic,
right,
and where we have to see how we can improve that.
Yeah. So Anand, that brings me to you because the high cost involved is in terms of the GPUs, TPUs, the cloud storage, and of course the energy consumption. From your perspective, you're a hardware manufacturer. How do you see the costs coming down in the years ahead?
Morning, everyone, and wonderful to be here. And Barun, great setup, amazing. Doing this in the middle of Germany with such an eclectic crowd. It's just amazing stuff. Just one quick position statement, Sridharan, before I respond to your question, right? The human mind is geared to think very linearly. So I always feel we overestimate the impact of technology in the short term and tend to kind of underestimate it in the long term, right?
True.
So my position statement is, we've been trying to mimic the human brain for a very long time. I've been in the compute industry for over 2 decades. We've been trying to wonder, the human brain consumes 20-watt power and does the kind of reasoning that compute systems can't, right? So independent of the Princeton study, great respect for people, there'll always be intellectual digression on these topics, but I believe that the train for mimicking the reasoning and the compute performance of brain, that train has already left. And the question now is to how to make the journey safe, secure, and worthwhile.
Right.
Back to your question on semiconductors, we selfishly believe we are the pizza base on which the whole semiconductor AI stack sits on. We have, if all of you are familiar with Moore's law, the industry has found ways to bring down cost consistently over many decades, right?
True.
Now, of course, because of device physics and other challenges, we've kind of hit a roadblock now, but a very interesting thing is happening. I'll get a little technical here, and then forgive me if this is not too relevant. There is a fundamental shift happening in how enterprise server architectures are designed. The traditional architecture would be a CPU sitting next to it, the DRAM from Micron or any of our peers. That is being replaced by a GPU or a TPU. And what we are seeing, just a plug for my mother company.
So Stefan, you are someone whose job is to look at how do you use AI, metaverse, Web3 technologies from a consumer point of view, like engagement. How much of AI actually are you able to use or do you plan to use going ahead in engagement with your customers?
Thanks for the question and good morning. Great to be here. It's a wonderful event, and also I couldn't agree more to what is actually said. So I would like to zoom out a little, and this is exactly what you're referring to. We are facing a new general purpose technology. So it was said before that there's a world without electricity, then there was a world with electricity, then we had internet, and now we have AI. And I think this is the big picture which we have to keep in mind if we talk about AI, because I also agree to your statement. In the short term, it's overestimated in regards of the impact, but in the long term, nobody of us can actually predict where we lead to. And this is a really fast-paced development which we're facing right now. So basically on a weekly basis, we see new developments and we see new enhancements, and we see also new technologies coming up. And I think this is something which we need to keep in mind when we also think about how to leverage the potential of AI within corporations. And therefore, I would say it's important just to use that big picture to leverage for your advantage. And what that means, it means like every corporation needs to see in terms of engagement AI as critical infrastructure. There was like a time where there were no ERP systems like to manage your processes and to manage your workflows in the corporations. Mm-hmm. And now there's like a fundamental layer within your critical infrastructure in the company to leverage that process enhancement and to manage your processes. And that kind of layer is important for every corporation within the company, also when it comes to AI. And that means that this gives you like a competitive advantage, because then it's in your DNA, it's in your critical infrastructure, and you can leverage the technology. And this is also what we at MHP suggest to our clients, just to get moving. So you need to adopt the technology, and you need to start moving. The train is not left.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for a lovely session.
In this